Hello everyone. Good day everyone. So welcome to Cloud DevOps Batch 55. This is a session 2 of our Cloud DevOps Batch 55. So before I start the session, I would like to give a quick recap on what's being covered in the previous session. In the session 1, we saw if you want to start your cloud and DevOps journey, and if you want to get a good cloud and DevOps career, the very first thing that you need to know, or the prerequisite for that training a cloud and DevOps technologies is Linux. We have seen a clear picture on the importance and the lengths and breadths of the Linux with respect to the utilization in the community. And we came to a conclusion that 99.9% of the world's enterprise infrastructure is on the top of Linux. So learning Linux is 100% needed and it is inevitable. You cannot avoid that. Also, we have seen in operating systems, there are two varieties of operating systems. One is command line operating system, which I'm very much interested about, and Linux falls under the category of command line operating system. And another operating system is Windows or graphical user interface, which means whatever the options that you see, whatever you want to do, everything you need to be done using something called as options. If you want to create if you want to create a file in Windows, you use options, right? Right click, click that, do that, and all right. But in Linux, which is a command line operating system, things don't work that way. Instead, everything is through command. You want to create a file, use a command. You want to delete a file, use a command. You want to destroy a file, use a command. You want to shut down a server, use a command. You want to restart a server, use a command. Everything is a command in command line interface, and that too in Linux. Okay, I'm interested in about this. So this is my area of interest, and this is what the current business is. So this is what we want to focus more on. Now, we also saw what is the licensing model offered in Windows and what is the licensing model that is offered in Linux. And in Windows, licensing model is based on the number of CPUs and the number of users, and also based on the size of the organization. And in Linux, it's not like that. It is also based on the number of CPUs, but not based on the number of users. Okay. And we saw Linus Torvalds is a person who has initiated this open source project of Linux kernel, which has been an inspiration, or he has taken inspiration from Unix, and he want to develop an operating system which is GNUX. GNUX stands for generally not Unix. We also saw what is an open source, and a lot of people thought that open source is always free. That is not true. And open source is a software which may or may not be free, but the code of the software should always be open. So we have taken a poll from the people and we understood what is an open source. So these are the things we have seen. Okay. Now I also mentioned another thing. If Linux is this much important, if you want to learn Linux, how can you learn Linux? That is another important thing. There are a lot of ways that you can learn Linux. One of the way is either you can have a Linux laptop and you can install Linux on the top of your computer and can learn, or you can install a virtualization software on your Windows or Mac or Linux computer, and you can create another computer on the top of the existing computer or a virtual machine with the operating system of your choice, in our case, Linux. But again, this is also I'm not much interested about. And Killer Coda or Katacoda is another option, which gives you the live Linux terminals where you can learn Linux on the top of it. And another option is, okay, excuse me. And another option is, okay, learning Linux on the top of AWS Cloud by creating a server on the top of AWS Cloud. And once you create a Linux server on the top of AWS Cloud, you can practice Linux on the top of it. I am more inclined towards it because since we are learning DevOps and cloud, AWS Cloud, learning things on the top of cloud adds little more value. And at the same time, you'll get an opportunity to start exploring Linux. Okay, so this is one thing that I want to proceed with. Okay, all right. Now, I don't have an account on AWS, so how can I get that? So yesterday I have demonstrated if you don't have an AWS account, you can create an AWS account for free. And also yesterday you would have got an email from me, not email, you would have got a message from me with all the details. And if you see this, every one of you would have received the link. If you click the link, you can see the playlist attached here. And if you click this playlist, you can see all the videos that are going to be published as a part of this session. And the Miro board and AWS account creation procedure also is enclosed here. You can check this and you can find the detailed steps on how to create an AWS account. Yesterday, I got a lot of messages from people that they're able to create an account. Okay, so yeah, that's good. And just a request, if anyone wants to speak, please raise your hand. You have a hand raise option. If you click the hand raise option, I'll be notified. I'll give you the mute option. Preeti, please click on the hand raise option. If you click that, I can give you the mute or unmute option. Okay, Preeti? All right. Anyone else? Yeah, Vishal, go ahead. So also we have shown that if you want to create an AWS account, it's a very straightforward thing we demonstrated. And yesterday, a few of the people reported they're having challenges when creating an AWS account. In case if you're having challenges, please ensure you wait for 24 hours. If you're using debit card, if you're using credit card, it will be very straightforward. Okay. And that's it. And before I proceed further, anyone have any questions? Komanan, Vishal, please go ahead.
Can you
Yeah,
please
Preeti, go
show?
ahead.
Good morning.
Yeah, hi.
So I've created the AWS account, but when I give the bank, the credit card details or debit card details, it shows the payment is not getting accepted. But I have logged into the account
Mhm.
actually.
It's not activated completely. Okay. Please ensure you use an access credit card or debit card that has international transaction enabled. Okay. So majority of the debit cards or credit cards that you have will have international enabled. If not, please ensure you enable it. Reach out to the bank, okay, to enable them, or in the internet banking itself, you can see that option. All right. And yeah, that's it. Now, this is the assignment that I have given you guys. I want every one of you to have an AWS account, and I hope every one of you have AWS account. And let me try to portray my goal for today. My goal for today is very simple, very straight. I want to create a server on AWS cloud. This is my goal for today. Goal for today. Let's have a goal for today. I want to create a server. Create a server on AWS cloud. Connect to the created Linux server from your computer. Okay. All right. Now, this is my goal for today, and I want to show you while doing this, we'll get some challenges and we'll see a lot of options. I want to explore all of these options to you. And let's try to understand these things. And before we proceed, we want to understand something, AWS Global Infrastructure Map. Okay, so click on AWS Global Infrastructure Map. I want to show you in what all countries, in what all regions AWS has its business. In 31 geographical locations, Amazon has its business. That means you can create your infrastructure in any of these 31 regions. Okay, not the government regions. So here, this is the map. Okay, so if you see any of the location in a green ball, that means it is created and it is operational. And if you see any of the ball in orange color, that means this region AWS is still setting it up. Okay, till in India, if you take India, in India, you used to have only in Mumbai till last year August. In last year August, they also started their business in Hyderabad, and the creation has taken almost 3 to 4 years of time. And Amazon has its business in India, Mumbai, and Hyderabad. And if you take in states, they have in, for example, government cloud. And for example, if you take here Ohio State, you have Ohio State, and in North California, and in Oregon. And you can also see here Canada Central, North Virginia, Amazon Cloud, and Ohio. So these are the 6 regions in United States where Amazon has its region. That means if you want to create your infrastructure in Ohio, you can create your infrastructure in Ohio. If you want to create the infrastructure in North California, you can also create the infrastructure in North California. And Amazon is certified, and even big government agencies and companies in states also uses Amazon cloud to host the government infrastructure as per the government rules and regulations. And if you see this, there are two more regions, AWS government cloud in US East and AWS government cloud in US West. These two are the regions which are created by Amazon to host the government agencies in government companies infrastructure on AWS cloud. Okay, and that's the reputation that AWS has with respect to the trust. Okay, so for example, if you take in South America, in Sao Paulo, you have it. And if you take Africa, I think till 6 months back in Cape Town, it is not yet operational, or even it's operational. Now, here in Australia, you have two. These are called, these are regions. So where and all you can create your infrastructure. But Manu, how do I come to know where my infrastructure, which is nothing but the servers to be created? It all depends on where your business is operated. For example, you take a company called as Flipkart. Flipkart is a business which is operated in India as an e-commerce. So obviously, it doesn't make any sense to create the infrastructure in United States. If you create infrastructure in United States, all the people who are accessing the request will go here, and the request will be processed, and the request will be come here. That means all the oceans that it has to go and come back. Obviously, there will be a lot of delay involved. And that's the reason you always need to create infrastructure where your business is happening. For example, if your business is happening in India, it's your response, it's as per the company choice. To avoid the latency, we need to create the infrastructure in the particular geographical location. Okay, and another important thing, and if you're doing business in Australia, okay, you should not create, or you should not save the data of that particular country in another country. Okay, there are certain global data privacy and security standards, and your company and all the organizations have to stick to that standards. If your business is happening in India, you need to create and save your data in India. If your business is happening in Europe, you need to create your infrastructure and business in Europe. This is as per the data compliance and data security standards. This is who tells you where the infrastructure needs to be created. It's business who manages, and I want to create the infrastructure here. I want to create the infrastructure here. Like that, you will be having. Okay, and these and these locations are called as geographical locations and referred as regions in Amazon. Okay, for example, if you want to create infrastructure in India, you can create your infrastructure in India. Okay, let me tell you how to do that. Okay, so for example, as of now, as of now, 11th of July. Okay, as of now, 11th of July, AWS is operating in 31 geographical locations, 99 availability zones. So what is this availability zone? Let's talk about it. So for example, I want to create, mine is an e-commerce business. For example, mine is an e-commerce business. Mine is an e-commerce business, which is based out of India. So I want to create 3 servers in the Amazon's data center. Okay, my business, I want to create this infrastructure in Mumbai. AWS data center in AWS region, okay, in Mumbai. Now, mine is an e-commerce application which runs these applications. Okay, I want to run these applications: payment application and user application, and I also want to have cart application. Okay, these 3 are the applications that I would like to run on 3 servers. Okay, now what I'm gonna do, I'll go here. I'll create 3 servers on AWS cloud. We haven't dealt how to create all these things, but visually let's try to understand this. Okay, and now I'm gonna create 3 servers. Okay, I'm gonna now I'm gonna create 3 regions. Come here. Now on this Linux machine, all 3 of them are Linux machines. Okay, Linux servers. This is a Linux server. This is also a Linux server. Now on the top of this application, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run the payment application. Okay, on the top, okay, payment application. And on the top of this, I'm gonna run user application. And on the top of this, I would like to run okay, on the top of this, I'm going to run this application. Now, because of some natural calamity or because of any hardware failure or because of some big earthquake in that particular region, for example, there's a big natural calamity happened and you lost this entire region. Okay, now you lost this physical location where your servers are there in Mumbai. Now, what will happen to your business? What will happen to your e-commerce business? How many of you say the business will run as usual? What will happen now? What will happen to this business? Is the business going to be impacted or not? Yes, no?
No.
Yes. Yes, the business
Yes.
is going to be impacted. Yes, you are 100% right. Yeah, the business is going to be impacted. And that's the reason you never ever create infrastructure in a region directly. Okay, instead we have a concept, and technically region is not a physical location where you are going to create the infrastructure. So in order to accommodate the availability, okay, yesterday we already discussed it, the availability of your business is something which creates the reputation and revenue to your company. Have you ever seen Flipkart down? Have you ever seen the company called as YouTube down? Have you ever seen Gmail down? Each and every second they go down, they're gonna lose a lot of revenue. And at the end, you'll also use reputation to the company. Always, we are going to design the infrastructure in such a way that keeping the high availability in mind, which means high availability is nothing but under any situation, if you lose any of the components of your business, how, is your business is going to operate as usual or not? In order to operate, how you design the infrastructure is referred as high availability. Okay, now instead of this, how things are going to be operated in almost all the cloud providers is they don't create and in order to accommodate the regional failures, what this cloud providers does is region, and this is Mumbai. Okay, now what Amazon does is they don't create infrastructure in one single region. They diversify the entire region into three places or four places or six places where they consider them as a data centers. And this is particularly referred as a zone. Mhm. It's also called as availability zone. Okay, done. Now, Amazon, based on the region that you have select, they'll diversify the entire region into different parts. For example, in Mumbai itself, they'll call it as Mumbai East. In Mumbai East, they'll select one region and they'll construct or they'll host a data center there. And in Mumbai West, they'll construct another data center and different parts of Mumbai. That's what I meant. Okay, so you're not going to lose entire place, right? Because of the natural calamity or anything. So not. So like that, they're gonna classify the entire location into three different parts, keeping certain calculations, keeping the statistics of the natural calamities in the past one here. And based on that, they're going to create the data centers in three different regions. And they're going to name this as availability zone. And this physical location, so okay, this is also called as availability zone. Okay, and availability zone is a place where you are going to physically create your infrastructure. Okay, let's talk about it. Okay, this is where you are going to create the infrastructure. Now, what we are going to do is, in the previous case, the infrastructure is not highly available. That means in case if there any issue comes up, okay, if you lose the server, if you lose the region, you lose the business. Okay. So yeah, here in this case, you don't have high availability. That means the application can operate only at high level, but at with multiple interventions because it's not high availability, because it doesn't have high availability. Okay, so high availability is a characteristic of a system that always aims to ensure the expected performance will work all the time. Okay, in order to gain the expected availability all the time, how you design the infrastructure, you need to design the infrastructure that is highly available. Even in our training, we are going to design the infrastructure which is fault tolerant to faults, and highly available all the time. We are going to design the infrastructure in such a way. Let me show you an example. Now I'm going to have the same payment applications. I'm going to run two payment applications. I'm going to run two payment applications. One payment application here and another payment application in North. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll run two instances of cart. Okay, copy right here. This is user application. This is user application. Now you also want to run another application that is cart. Let me try to run the cart application here. Excuse me. Cart application. So cart application. Now I'd like to run the cart here. Now in this situation, okay, now you're running each instance of your application in different physical locations of a region, right? Now in this case, okay, in this case, what will happen? I'll ask you one question. In this case, if you lose Mumbai West, is your business going to be operated as usual or not? How many of you say yes? In this case, is your business is going to be operated as usual?
Yes.
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 How many of you say yes? Let me send a poll.
Yes.
So I just sent a poll. Please answer that yes or no. Is your business going to be operated here? Yes or no? Yes, the answer is true. It's gonna cost you a lot, but you're gonna get availability, yes or no. I just sent a poll. In this case, if you lose the Mumbai West, is your e-commerce business, which is expected to happen all the time, will it work or not? In this situation, if yes or no, please respond your answer, guys.
No.
It's not going to be operated, Prem? Wonderful. 95% of the people reported that they feel that the business will work as usual. 5% reported that the business will not work. The business will work as usual. Why? Here you lost user instance and you lost cart instance, but the another instance of user is running here and another instance of cart is running here. So even though your one particular availabilities on US Mumbai West is down, still your business will work as usual because you're running two instances and two different locations. This concept is called as high availability. This is how we are going to achieve high availability. Okay.
But
Now I'll
Manoj,
ask you another question. What will happen if you
but
lose
Manoj,
the entire region itself? So then you need to design the infrastructure keeping the regional failure in mind. That means you need to host infrastructure, one in Mumbai and another is Hyderabad. Again, that is going to cost you a lot. Okay, so it's all based on the business call. What is the failure that you can accommodate is something that is going to designate the design of the infrastructure.
Manoj, I have a
So we
question.
are going to design the infrastructure keeping these
Manoj,
failures, these availability needs in mind.
Manoj,
Okay,
I have a question.
go ahead.
Sorry, Manoj. So, you talked about Mumbai East and Mumbai North, right? So, what if you lose Mumbai West? So you still have Mumbai North,
Mhm.
but my question is, So there is an is the latency is going to be a matter if Mumbai West? Because if Mumbai North is lost, you still have Mumbai West. So Mumbai East and West is less latency
When
than you
Amazon is
access.
constructing data centers, when Amazon is constructing the zones of a particular region, if you remember, I said one word. They are going to be selected and constructed in such a way both of them will have 100 gigs per second link between them. Okay. So
Okay, okay.
they are connected with some direct communication will be 100 gigs per second. But yes, whatever you said is true. If you choose Hyderabad and Mumbai, definitely there will be some latency, but the availability zones of one particular region are going to be very tightly coupled with very high available network links with 100 gigs per second link. So you don't feel much difference. But it's
Okay.
far better than losing the entire business. Again, it's far better than losing entire business than running the business somewhat slow. Okay, but to answer your question, the availability zones of one particular region are tightly coupled with a very high speed network cables. Okay, it's called as a network. You have a network line of 100 gigs per second.
Mm, okay.
Okay,
And okay.
that's a good
And
question.
yeah, and in each availability zone, do you have to have a minimum of this much data center, or like you can have or one at least, or it has to be minimum of two, or it has whatever
It's a
like is.
choice. It's a choice. How much can you afford? Okay, for example, my business can afford one regional failure. Okay, one zone failure. Okay, in case if you lose one zone also, that's fine, your business will still operate. Now again, if you ask me the same question, what will happen if I lose both the zones? Now is your business going to happen?
Um, you
No,
still have Mumbai North.
no, but you don't have user component, right?
Oh yes, you don't have.
Obviously.
Okay,
So
okay.
in this case, you need to, here you can accommodate only one zone failure. So you are designing the infrastructure, keeping if one zone in Amazon fails, whether my business can accommodate or not. If your business is making more money and if you are is a very reputed company, which can't even accommodate a 1 minute of downtime, so you need to design the infrastructure, keeping two regions, two zones of a region failure in mind. If you fall under that situation, you need to create the infrastructure keeping the regional failure in mind. Okay, so dual failure in mind. So in this case, you are going to create the infrastructure with that context in mind, where you are going to run 3 copies of each in 3 different regions. Now in this case, if this is the thing that you can't accommodate, okay, if you can't accommodate 2 regions failure, okay, your business should run, okay, your business should run even in case of, okay, 2 components failure or 2 zones failure. Now in this case, if even if you lose 2 regions, is your business is going to be operated? Yes or no?
Yes, it is.
Okay, but again, each and every second, okay, your availability of the company, okay, your availability of the product is directly proportional to the price that you are going to invest. Okay, so yesterday I have shown you there is a nice calculator called as uptime.is, which is going to show you, okay, what is the availability that it can offer. For example, when you're buying a software solution from a cloud provider, they sell you the product based on the reputation. If you are buying any product whose uptime is 99.99%, that means they are committing you a maximum of 4 minutes 21 seconds downtime per month. That means in a day, you can expect a maximum downtime of 8.6 seconds. In order to achieve this much availability, and you cannot say that wherever the infrastructure that I have hosted, I lost the zone, and because of that, there is an outage. You cannot say that, because when a customer signs up the product, they have something called a service level agreement. And if you are not able to provide the service to your customer based on the commitment that you have given, you need to pay penalty to your customer. Okay, so that's the reason the amount of high availability, the amount of availability increases, the cost of the product also increases. And a lot of companies, okay, aim to build a product with 99.9% or 99.99. And there are certain products in Google and AWS which offers 99.999%. That means in a month, maximum of 26 seconds of downtime you might experience. And in order to achieve this, you can think how robust and how they need to build the infrastructure. Obviously, every time one 9 increases, it's going to cost you a lot. And achieving 100% is 100% false. You cannot achieve 100% anytime. Okay, achieving 100% is 100% false. It's not possible. And that's the reason always availability is calculated in 99, 99.95, like that. Okay, so it all depends on what is the availability that you are promising to your customer, and based on that you need to design the infrastructure. Okay, that's how the design principles comes up into picture, and we are also going to keep these design principles in mind, and then we are going to create the infrastructure.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay,
Thanks, Manoj.
all right.
And
So
and and
let,
okay.
mhm.
And on a region, you have any limitation for availability zone? Like Mumbai, do you need to have a minimum of 3 because you draw 3? I was
No,
just
no,
asking.
no, not
Okay.
like that. So,
Okay.
for example, depends on the region. Okay, if you take U.S. government cloud, they have three zones of this. And if you take North Virginia, okay, where is North Virginia? Yeah, and they have six availability zones. Can you see this? And in the entire regions, AWS North Virginia is a region which has 6 availability zones. Rest of them will have 3 or 4. Okay, so and when Amazon has started their business in 2005-6, they have started their business in North Virginia. And whenever Amazon wants to start or roll out any new features, and this is the region where they'll roll out the features first, and this is the place where, when compared to other places, billing is relatively less. Okay, but yeah, to answer your question, it's not you who decide how many zones has to be there. Amazon decides how many regions they have, and based on the selected regions, based on the offered zones, you need to design your infrastructure.
Okay. So there is no restriction, like you need to have 3 zones
No,
in
no,
a
there is no
region,
such
right? Okay.
restriction.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
your choice.
Okay.
It's
Thank you.
100% your choice.
So
How much availability you want, how much money that you can invest, and what is the return of investment. Each and every business will have something called as ROI. ROI stands for return of investment. How much you are investing, how much you are getting back. So based on that, you need to design the infrastructure, and your budget will be allocated based on that. Okay.
thank you, Manoj. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's
Sorry
all
for the
about give
interruption.
and take.
Yeah.
How much you can. It's a business end of the day. How much you are investing, how much you are getting.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption. Sorry. Bye.
No worries.
Yeah.
So guys, so this is the importance of availability. And even in our training, we are going to create the infrastructure keeping this into mind. Now I'll ask you another important and one very basic question. If you want to install an operating system, typically how much time it takes? For example, if you're installing any operating system, what is the idle time to install an operating system? What is the idle time?
15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
20 to 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Half an hour to 1 hour.
Okay.
30 minutes.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, on an average, I can say it is 30 minutes. Anyone else? The highest people said is 20 minutes, less is 20 and highest is 31 hour. So I just took an average. What if I say in cloud, when you create a server with a OS, with an OS of your choice, you can create a server in less than 1 minute. Do you believe it? Even 10 seconds, 15 seconds also you can create. Do you know how it's possible? Do you guys believe it? Anyone would like to believe this or not? And the reason for it is, okay, in cloud, everyone wants to adopt cloud because in cloud things are easy and things are handy. And whenever you create any server in cloud, okay, technically it is not installing. Okay, technically it's not installing. You come here, and if you mention I want to create a server, Obviously, whenever you want to buy a computer, when you're placing computer order, what you do? You check, you'll say, I want 16 gigs of RAM and 3.2 gigahertz of processor. I want i7 octa-core processor, and I want 512 gig of disk, and I am interested in buying SSD disk so that the performance will be good, right? So similarly, so when you're creating a server, you're gonna mention, I want 2 CPU, and I want 8 GB RAM, and I also want 100 GB disk. Right? These are the metrics that you select, or whatever the expectation that you have, based on that you select, right? So even on servers, it's the same. Okay, in cloud, you're going to mention how much CPU you want, how much memory you want. Based on that, you can create a server. But technically, you're not going to install operating system on the top of it. Okay, so there is a concept in AWS called as AMI. Okay, AMI stands for Amazon Machine Image. So technically, it is a disk with operating system which is already installed. For example, you have Red Hat. There is a disk, Red Hat. There is a disk which is there, which has an operating system which is already installed. Now, the moment you create a server, when you mention Red Hat, Amazon will create a disk and attach a disk with a operating system which is already installed on the top of this disk. And that's the reason you think that on cloud installations are quick with respect to operating system, but really it's not installing. All it's doing is there will be disks that are already created on the fly and which will have an operating system that is already installed. And that's the reason you can think things are going to be installed very quick. I think in batch 53, in one of the interview question, someone has asked this. Okay, so in Amazon Machine Image, okay, is a whatever the operating systems that you want, almost all the operating systems are available in Amazon in the form of AMI. AMI is nothing but a disk with an operating system which is already installed. The moment when you create a server and when you mention, I want Red Hat or I want CentOS or I want Ubuntu, Amazon or the particular cloud provider will look for the particular disk and will attach the disk to you. And this disk is called as a boot disk. Okay, and boot disk is a disk which has the operating system installed, and that's the reason things looks very quick and easy in cloud. And whatever you are supposed to do manually, cloud provider is going to do all those things in the backend using automation. That's it. No magic, no rocket science. Okay, rather than you doing it, the cloud provider will be doing it. Okay, now you created a server. Fine. Now you created a server. So if you want to connect to your computer, how do you connect, guys? So you have your computer, you turned on, you powered it on, and for example, if your name is Bobby Brown, you'll enter your username as Bobby Brown, and you'll enter the password, and you'll hit enter. You'll be connected to it, right? You'll be logging into the computer, and what you're doing is authentication, right? Authentication is nothing but a process proving who you are. Okay, you need to prove who you are telling who you are. If you say that you are Bobby Brown, you need to prove that you are Bobby Brown. How do you come to, how the system will come to know that it is a Bobby Brown? It doesn't have a camera to check. It's not doing image processing, right? It verifies your identity by the password, right? That means if you want to connect to a computer, you need to have a username and password. And you're entering the username and password since the computer is in front of you. That's fine. Now let's assume you have a computer which is in North Virginia. This is North Virginia. Since majority of us know Windows, let's try to talk in Windows terminology. You have a server created in North Virginia, Amazon Cloud. Now you have created a server and it is a server with some XYZ CPU. For example, it has 8 CPU and 32 GB of RAM. You have 32 gigs of memory. And you also have 256 GB of disk. Okay, fine. Now you want to install some applications on the top of this Windows server. Okay, a server is also just a computer with higher CPU, higher memory, which is designed to be accessed and used by n number of people. Okay, fine. Now you created a server. Now the server is in North Virginia and you want to connect to the server and update the softwares, or you want to install a software on the top of it. Now, how do you connect to the computer from your company laptop? How do you connect to that? This is a server. Now, how do you connect to that computer? How you do?
To SSH channel.
SSH.
Remote,
Okay. It's
remote,
Windows. Now, why SSH came?
remote desktop.
Yes. You need to have a software that should let you to enter the username and password, and you should be connecting to it, right? If it is a Windows computer, you have a software installed called as RDP. These type of softwares are called as client-based softwares. Softwares which are installed on the top of the client machine. Client machine is nothing but your machine, okay? Your computer, client machine. It's called as a client software. Okay, you need to, for example, this client software varies based on the type of server that you want to connect. Now, for example, it will have an IP address, right? For example, this is mail.google.com. Is the name of the server that I want to connect. Now, what I want to do in my computer also, if you are using Windows, you have RDP installed. You type Windows button and say RDP. The moment you type RDP, you got remote desktop connection. You click on it, and you need to say what is the server IP address that you want to connect. Now I'll say mail.google.com. Mail.google.com. You said it. Now you need to mention connect. Now it asks you a mail.google.com is something which I cannot RDP because that is Google server. Okay. Now it asks you enter the username and password. Now the moment you enter the username and password, that means you will be connected to the computer or a server which is present in the North Virginia. Here the software that you're using is a client software, is a Windows based software, right? Now this is how you are going to connect. But what if it is a Linux machine? What is the story if you are doing a Linux machine? But Manu, you said that the entire business is Linux. So if it is Linux, we are going to create a server. How are we going to connect to it? How are you going to connect to it? So the story still remains the same, but just the software changes. For example, this is a Linux server. For example, if this is a Linux server, and on the top of your Windows computer, you are going to install a software called as Putty. Putty is a software which helps you in connecting to the Linux based machines. Okay, so RDP, which we have said, RDP is a remote desktop protocol, a methodology which we use to connect to the servers. It's just a protocol. Similarly, for Linux, if you want to connect to the server, okay, we do something called as SSH. Okay, we use something called as SSH. SSH is a protocol which helps you in connecting to the Linux based machines. So if yours is a Windows based machine, you need to install a software called as Putty. Okay, let me try to go ahead and install the Putty, because if we create a server on cloud in North Virginia or North California or in India, if you want to connect to that, you need to have the software installed. So I want to install Putty on the top of my computer. So how can I install Putty? It's very straightforward. And if you are using MacBook or Linux machine, you do not have to install it because you will be having a terminal. By default, you will be having a terminal. Okay. All right. Now what I'm going to do is it's in almost all the companies, this is the ethical software. Putty, enter, just say Putty download. All you need to do is just click on download Putty and choose x86. If you are using a Windows laptop, click on it. It is an installer. Just click it and click on next, next, next. Okay, your machine is going to be having. Okay, all you need to do is you need to click next, 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 next. That's it, done. Once you install, okay, once you install, okay, if you type your Windows button, if you type PUTTY, you will have the Putty software. Can you see this? Okay, so whenever you want to connect to the computer, all you need to do is you need to enter the IP address and then you need to click this. That's it. Okay. Now this is another important thing. How you are authenticating, how you are proving your identity. In Windows, if you want to connect, how do you do, guys? If you want to authenticate, you enter username and password, right? Enters your username and password. And if the username and password are correct, you are going to be connected, right? Agree or not? Yeah, they'll go ahead. I could see your question. All right. Yeah, Rahul, would you like to ask anything?
Oh no, sorry, Manoj.
Okay. Yes, Shruti, would you like to ask anything? Shruti, you can unmute and talk.
Yes, sir. I was asking few things when you was teaching the data center and
Okay, okay. All right, all right. Yeah, thank you. All right.
so okay.
So in Linux, how this authentication works? Okay, in Windows, in Linux, how this authentication works. So Linux offers one more variety of authentication. Okay, so there are two ways that you can authenticate to Linux. Okay, but it's not and or. Okay, so either you can use both username and password, or you can also use something called as passwordless authentication. Okay, when you join any company, okay, so they might ask you, hey, can you please generate the keys and give that? And based on how you react, how you share the keys describes whether you are a really working professional or a person who just learned the things and cook up the story and interview and join the company. Just with this, people can easily identify. This is one of the most important and silly topic which can prove how comfortable, confident you are with the Linux-based ecosystem. Okay, so username and password is something which is one of the most highly used industry standard authentication mechanism. Even in training, we are going to use that. But Linux offers one more level of authentication using something called as passwordless authentication, which means without entering the password, you can also connect to the server. How? Okay, let me explain that. And we are going to do passwordless authentication only for today. And from tomorrow, we are going to create the servers that goes by username and password. Okay, because in companies, there are certain companies which still uses, and there are certain tools which still uses passwordless authentication. With that interest in mind, I would like to use the passwordless authentication. Let's try to show you how the passwordless authentication works. So when you're talking about passwordless authentication, the name suggests without the password authentication works. How? Okay, so passwordless authentication is also referred as keys based authentication. The reason why I mentioned keys is when I say SSH keys, okay, I'm referring to SSH key pair. Okay, both of them are same. SSH keys or SSH key pair, both of them are same. Okay, and when I say SSH key pair, it is a pair of files, two files. That's it, nothing else. No big deal, no rocket science. When I say SSH keys, it's a two keys, okay, two files. Now, how it works? If you want to understand this, I want to explain you one basic lock and key concept. Okay, for example, this is your house, and for your house, okay, you are going out, okay, and you lock your house. Okay, so let me show you lock and key. Let me show you that. Let me show you this nice image. Why this image is not copying? Yeah, and this image shows, okay, if you want to open this lock, or if you want to lock this lock, you should use the appropriate key. This is everyone clear, right? If you want to open this lock, you need to have this key. Okay, done. Let me show you another example. Lock. Okay, for example, let me try to take a lock. Excuse me. there's a lock, copy the lock, paste it here. So for example, you're having a lock. And if you want to open the lock, you need to have the appropriate key, right? Key images. Let me take it. Why is it O's? Copy the image and paste it here. So for example, if you want to open this lock, you need to have this key. If you have this key, then only you can open it. And among this information, this is your home, and you lock your home with this particular key. Done. Now in these pieces, in these two pieces, which one is a public information, which one is a private? So if anyone sees your lock, nothing will happen, no harm will happen to you, because even if they see the lock, which is locked to your home, no one can find or no one can hack your key and enter, right? But what if I'm exposing this key to everyone? So if you guys see what is the pattern of this key, can you open my lock or not? In these pieces of information, which is sensitive information, which is a public information. So which one? Anyone? Anyone?
He is the
This is
public.
this is lock, right? And this is a key. Okay, let's try to put these words. So which is public and which is private? If someone sees your lock, any harm will be there. If someone sees your lock, any harm will be there. What will be your thoughts? Which one is public and which one is private? Okay, key, Niharika is saying key is private and lock is public. That means anyone else, anyone else? Vishwanath, go ahead. Vishal, go ahead.
Yeah, lock is a public and key is a private.
Which means if someone sees this information also, that's fine. But if
Yes, sir.
someone sees the key, it is going to create a catastrophe, right? Even in the key pairs, it is still the same concept. Okay, when you say key pair, okay, you have two files, right? And out of these two files, one file is okay, and out of this, and one file is referred as public key file. One file is public key, and another is private key file. Okay, so when you create, we are going to create a key pair. Okay, and out of that, one of the file is public key, which will be placed on the top of the server, and another is something which will be kept on the top of your computer. Okay, so which one is something which is supposed to be kept on computer, and which one is something which is supposed to be kept on your server? And if you want to open, okay, we are going to generate two files. One is public key file and another is a private key file. So we are going to place this public key file, which is nothing but a lock, on the top of the server where you want to be authenticated. And on the other hand, on the top of your computer, you are going to place this key, or on the top of any place where you are going to authenticate. Okay, now I'm gonna create a server and I'm gonna place a lock on the top of the server. From my computer, I'm going to connect to the server using this lock. Now, where I need to place my key, on the top of a server or on the top of my computer? Anyone? Anyone? Anyone?
Server.
Exactly. So let's try to talk about that. Okay. Now I would like to show you how to create a server. Okay, now I want to sign into my AWS account. We know how to create an AWS account. We already have an AWS account. I'll say aws.com. Now I would like to sign in. I assume that every one of you have AWS accounts already. I'll click on log back in. I'll click on the log back in, and then I'm going to enter the username and password. Okay, done. Now I have an account whose name is trainer.manuverma, and you have two options, root user or IAM user. Which option do I need to select? Root user or I need to select the IAM user? So by default, please try to select only the root user. Root is like a super user. In Windows, you have administrator is the super user or an administrator of the account, right? Similarly, in the Linux world, root is an account which is a super user. I'm going to talk about these things more in detail, but for now, in companies, you're going to use IAM user. What is an IAM user? We'll see this in week 2 or week 3. But now I want every one of you to go with the default option root user and enter your email address. And once you select the email address, you need to enter the password. Okay, so click on it and then you need to enter this one and enter the password. In my case, I have saved the password, and you might not get this enter the one-time password. In the past, my account was compromised, so I have enabled this. This also how to enable password, how to enable one-time password or multi-factor authentication is something I'm gonna demonstrate tomorrow again. But for now, just enter the password. The moment you enter the password, you're gonna see the dashboard like this. What is this? First, you need to understand one important point. In cloud, everything is a service. Okay. Amazon stands for, AWS stands for Amazon Web Service. So Amazon is offering services. So based on the type of service you want, you need to adopt or you need to consume the service. In this Amazon, I want to create a server. So EC2 is a service which offers servers as a service. EC2 stands for Elastic Cloud Compute. So this is a service which is designed to offer infrastructure as a service. Amazon don't care what you are doing. You said Amazon to give you a server. On the top of it, you are going to create and you are going to manage everything of your own. But the underlying hardware Amazon is going to provide you along with the operating system. And it's your responsibility how you're going to manage it. So whenever you are having good admin team, cloud and DevOps team, we majority of the times we go with cloud compute, EC2, whenever you have any services that needs to be running. Okay. So again, my statement is not 100% true. If you are talking about containers or Kubernetes, that also we are going to talk. At the time, we are going to go with PaaS, platform as a service. But for now, I would like to create a server. If you want to create a server, you need to adopt a service, you need to consume a service, and the name of that service is EC2. EC2 stands for Elastic Cloud Compute. Okay. Now I'll go to the account which I have signed in. Click on this and I'll search for EC2. Just like your Google search, on the top left, you have a search bar. All you need to do is click this and you have some star button here. If you click the star button, it is like bookmarking. If you see this on the top left, I have these bookmarks, right? In case if you don't want it, okay, for example, I'm clicking EC2, click it, that is gone. Now, if whenever you're using any frequently used service, you can bookmark it. The moment you bookmark it, you will get the services here. Just a shortcut. Now I'll say EC2. EC2 stands for Elastic Cloud Compute, which is a virtual servers in the cloud, where Amazon offers servers as a service. Now click that. Click on it. Now I would like to create a server. All right. So you don't get an option to create a server. Instead, you will get an option called as a launch a server. Okay. Now this is the dashboard, which looks like. Okay. So as soon as you enter click the dashboard, you will see all of this, how many servers are running and how many security groups are there, how many disks are attached, all these things you'll be seeing here. Okay. Now you also see a couple more options on the top right. What is this? Who selected this region as North Virginia? I have selected it. Now, whenever you want to create any sort of infrastructure in any region of your choice, you can select it. For example, if I want to create my servers in Tokyo, Japan, click this. That's it. You're switched. Now, whatever the infrastructure that you are going to create will be created in Japan, in Tokyo region. Okay. Infrastructure is going to be created in Tokyo region. For example, if you want to create the infrastructure in Mumbai, you can select Mumbai region. In my case, Mumbai is not yet activated because majority of the times I'm using this. For example, I want to create Mumbai. Click this. Now If you want to see in which region you are in right now, all you need to do is click on top right. You will see in which region you are in right now. Okay, top right corner. This is what I was referring. This is the option that I am referring. Okay, so yeah, that's it. And there are also other options here, how to create, okay, how do you interact with customer care support, and what is the account name, and what is the billing dashboard, and all these things we can also see. We can also, whenever you're having any technical challenges or account related challenges or billing related challenges, you can fire a ticket with Amazon. This is something I'm gonna talk tomorrow. Okay, today my goal for today is I want to create a server and I want to connect to it. That is my first goal. Okay, now in the interest of time, what I would like to do is I would like to create infrastructure in North Virginia. Why I have to create infrastructure? Why I need to choose North Virginia? Because based on the usage, you'll end up paying, right? Now, you need to select one region. Even when you join any organization, they also create infrastructure in one particular region and they'll stick to that. Okay. And as a part of your learning today, if you create in North Virginia, tomorrow, if you create in Mumbai, and day after tomorrow, if you create in Ohio, and day after tomorrow, if you create in Central, Canada Central, you will not have any track how many servers you're having, and you end up consuming a lot of servers and you'll get a lot of bill. So in the interest of our practice, please ensure you select one region and stick to that. And if you ask me, I always strictly say you to stick to North Virginia. In North Virginia, majority of the services are little inexpensive. Now you can ask me, so the billing will be based. Okay, so the pricing of the cloud for the services is same across the world? No. So the taxation of each and every country varies based on the law of the land. Based on the law of the land, taxation will varies, right? In United States, state to state tax varies. In India, from state to state taxes vary, right? So if you go to Canada, taxation will be different. If you go to India, taxation will be different. Based on the taxation, your billing varies, and that's the reason if a server where you're running for 1 hour in Mumbai, if it's costing you 100, it might cost you 10 rupees in North Virginia. Or if something costs you 100 rupees in North Virginia, it might cost you 5 rupees in India. Because of the taxation and law of the land, billing, resources, everything vary. And because of that only your billing also varies based on the selected region. In our training, we are going to adopt majorly North Virginia, because whenever Amazon releases any sort of new features, Amazon is going to release their features first in North Virginia. And I would like to prefer creating the infrastructure in North Virginia only. Okay, even in your case, please prefer creating the infrastructure in North Virginia. Now you can also see what is this US East 1, what is this US East 2, what is this US West 1, and what is this US West 2. Each and every geographical region in Amazon is tagged with a logical name. Okay, so as per the system, everything will have a logical name. This is for human and this is for the system. So US East 1, US East 2, US West 1, and US West 2 are the logical names of the regions. Okay, US Western is the logical name given to the North Virginia. Now I would like to launch a server. Okay, my goal is first, you'll get a requirement from the business, right? So why you need to create a server first? Someone will ask you to provision a server, and then you will provision a server and they will install application on the top of it. Okay, whenever someone asks you to create a server, this is how the request will come up. I want to have 4 CPU. I want to run an application that should have minimum 4 CPU and 16 gig of RAM, and it is a storage intensive application. So I want 512 GB of disk, which is SSD. This is how the requirement comes up. Also, they also need to mention which flavor of Linux you want, CentOS, Red Hat, or Windows, or a MacBook, or a Mac machine, right? You need to mention that. This is the requirement that you get, and based on that, you are going to provision the server. Okay, you got the requirement. Let's go and create it. Now, as soon as you click this, you have a lot of options available. You can also check how the health of the systems at Amazon as well. For example, there are certain times your compute might not do well. So if you want to see if every service is operating well at Amazon or not, in the dashboard, you have an option called as health check. Okay, if something is not working, you can also come and check whether everything is operating as usual on the top of Amazon or not. This is called as a service health option. You can check all the systems are operating as usual or not on Amazon. So click this and you can see this. It says your account health. Now, as of now, there are no issues reported in Amazon in the last 1 minute. Whenever Amazon identifies any issues, any challenges, any outages, they are going to report it here. You don't have to go to internet and search. You get all the information here itself. Okay. There is one piece of information that I want to highlight. Okay. Now in interviews, they'll ask you how do you come to know if there is any issue reported on Amazon? If something doesn't work, you can check in the health check panel itself. And let's try to launch a server. But because that's my goal for today. Now click on instances on the left pane. You have an option called as instances. Click on instances. Now in the top right, you have an option called as launch an instance. In my case, I have a lot of servers, but ignore that. Now I would like to launch a server. Okay. Now I would like to launch a server and I would like to name my server as my lab machine. Okay. So my Linux lab machine. Always name should make sense. Name should always signify what it is. Okay. Now, how many machines you want? One machine, two machine, or three machine? I just want one machine. Now, you want Amazon Linux? Amazon Linux is a flavor of Linux from Amazon. You in cloud, Amazon Cloud is the only cloud provider where you can also provision the Mac machines. Hmm. I don't want a Mac machine or I don't want a Ubuntu machine. So if you want to browse AMIs, you can click on this. AMI stands for Amazon Machine Image. And you can see a couple of options here, right? AWS Marketplace and AWS Community. There are in AWS Marketplace 8,313 AMIs are available. So whenever someone wants to sell any software in the form of an AMI, they can market their AMI here in the marketplace. That means if a company called as software P, if they are selling their software in the form of AMI, they can sell their software in the marketplace. Okay, now I don't want to go to marketplace because in the open source, I want to go with the community AMIs. Community AMIs is a place where you get most of the things for free. Now I would like to search for CentOS. CentOS is a flavor of Linux, which is a copy of Red Hat, which is almost a clone of Red Hat. And I want to look for CentOS 7, seventh version of CentOS images. Look for it and see whether you have any options available or not. Now you get a lot of options, and among all, I'm interested, whatever the option that you are interested, you can select and you can choose accordingly. Okay. All right, guys. There are a lot of images available, but you can select one among them and you can connect to it. So for example, I would like to connect to any machine of your choice. I really don't care. So I'm going to select this, select. Now, all you need to do is scroll down. Now the AMI is selected. Now scroll down, scroll down. Now there is something called as T2 micro. What is this T2 micro and why there is a label called as Freetail eligible? If you want to understand that, you need to understand something called as CPU and memory combination. And you need to understand one thing, if you're having just two CPUs and 128 GB of memory, that is not considered as a good combination and you might not get a better performance. In Amazon or in the computing world, there is something called as best combination. So how much amount of CPU gives you best processing power? CPU plus memory combination. Okay, so based on the amount, based on the proportion, based on the ratio of CPU to memory, you get the performance of the machine. Okay, such kind of best combinations Amazon offers you, and based on your requirement, whether you want one CPU or two CPUs or three CPUs, based on your requirement, you can select. For example, I want two CPUs and 1 gig of memory. Then that particular combination is called as T3 micro. For example, I want 8 CPUs and 32 gig of memory, and that combination is referred as T3 to X large. For example, if you go, I want 2 CPUs and 4 gig of memory. That combination is called as C5AD. So similarly, each and every combination has a name. Now, among all the combination, Amazon, as a part of the free tier, they're gonna give you T2.micro, which is nothing but 1 CPU and 1 gig of RAM free. EC2 is free, you get 750 hours free, but they are going to give you free only for T2 micro, which means you get only 1 CPU and 1 gig of memory. Okay, I'm gonna go with T2 micro for now. Now you can see there is an option called as key pair. What is this key pair? The key pair is nothing but the same concept that we are talking about, SSH key pair. Okay, SSH key pair. Now you can you can generate the keys on the top of your computer, or you can also ask Amazon to create it. Since I have not created the keys, I'll ask Amazon to create it. Since this is my batch 55, I'm gonna mention batch 55. And these are the type of keys. Just go with the default. And there are two types of private keys. If you're using Mac, please prefer select PEM. And if you're using Windows, and particularly if you're using PuTTY, you need to select PPK. I repeat again, PPK stands for PuTTY private key. This is the private key format used by PuTTY. Okay, whenever you're using Windows and on the top of PuTTY, please prefer selecting PPK. PPK stands for PuTTY private key. Now create a key pair. Now the private key will be downloaded, and it has downloaded and it's there on your computer, and public key is there on the top of the cloud. Now whenever you are creating a server, you can mention I want to create the server with this particular public key, which means the same image that I'm showing, you are creating a server and you're telling I want to use the batch 55 public key, public lock. Okay, if you want to open this lock on your computer, you should have the batch 55 private key. Okay, so if you want to open this, you need to have the appropriate key. And when you join the company, if someone asks you, hey, give me the key, never ever share both the keys or never ever share the private keys. Only you're supposed to share the public key. So when someone asks you keys, that means they are going to take your keys and place your keys in any of these machines so that you can SSH to them. That is also not widely used, by the way, but there are some companies and there are some appliances which still uses that. Okay, but consider never prefer to share private key. Okay, so now I'm gonna launch the server. That's it. I'm not gonna touch anything. I'll just say launch the server. In less than 1 minute, it is supposed to come. Let it come up. Okay, now your server is up. Click on this. Now your particular server will be up. I want to show you one more point. And if you see this, the instance state, can you see this? If the instance state is pending, which means Amazon has not yet provisioned the required resources to you. Whatever the request that you have provisioned, Amazon has not processed your request. Okay, so majority of the times, whenever you receive a free tier account or whenever you're creating any free tier instances, based on the capacity availability at Amazon, you would get the preference. Sometimes it even take 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 10 minutes as well. Okay, it all depends. If the instance state is pending, that means your your server is not at provisioned. Whatever the resources that are needed were not at provision to you. Okay, in order to connect to the server, you need to ensure you have okay, Linux lab machine. Okay, I think the state came to running, which means the required resources were provisioned. Now, another important metric that I would like to show you is status checks. What is this initializing? What is this initializing? And come here and click on status checks. You can see system status checks is initializing. Instance status checks is also initializing. What is this checks? Let's talk about that. System checks, EC2 checks. Okay, so whenever you're not able to connect to the machine, okay, these are the two things that you need to check. Okay, instance status checks and system status checks. So these are the two things that you need to check when you are not able to connect to the server. Okay, so what exactly the difference between system status checks and the internal status checks? So system status checks is nothing but the underlying hardware checks. For example, whenever you're creating a server, technically you're not really creating a server, you are creating a virtual machine. That means on the top of the big physical machine, you are creating a virtual machine, which is also called as virtual server. When I create this, this is called as a virtual server. Okay, it's called as virtual server. Okay, and this is also called as virtual server, and the name varies from cloud to cloud. In Azure they call it as a VM. In AWS we call it as an instance. In Google Cloud also we call it as an instance. Okay, instance or virtual server, but end of the day it is just a virtual server. System status checks is nothing but underlying host. Okay, what is the status of the host, underlying host? So host status checks, okay, underlying hardware checks is nothing but system status checks. Instance status checks is nothing but what is the status, what is the health of the server that you have created. If both of them are operational, then only you can connect. Okay, then only it signifies that it came up operational. Now if you come here and click here, you can see both the instance status checks is still initializing and the system status checks are still initializing. It's gonna take few minutes of time, like one minute, less than 1 or 2 minutes, because we are going with the free tier. So in the free tier, things will take little time. But if you go with some bigger machines where you give 2 CPUs and 4 gigs of RAM, things will be coming up very quickly. Now I would like to attempt connecting to the server. Now I'm not going to enter the password. Still, I'm going to connect to it. See, now I have my public key attached to the server. Now what I'm going to do is I'll copy the public IP address of the server. Now I'll open the putty, PUTTY, click on this. Now I'm gonna enter the username, IP address. Okay. Now in the CentOS based machines, okay, CentOS is a username. CentOS is the username. How I know that? So each and every operating system will have a default user account. When you're using CentOS, CentOS is a default user account. Now come back and open your putty. Let me open it one more time. PUTTY. Please ensure you select only the public IP address. Copy the public IP address. And in the left window, you have an option called as, in the left window, you have an option called as SSH. Click on the SSH, click on the plus button here. Please click on the plus button and go to the auth and you need to browse. Okay, you need to supply the private key of this server. Click on this and batch 55 ppk is the server which I have created, which is a key which I have created. Okay, now I'll open it. Now you need to say accept and continue. Now enter the username. That's it. You're connected. Uptime. You're connected to the server. So you're connected to the server which is in North Virginia. This is how we are going to create a server and we are going to connect to the server using putty. I'm going to show you one more time quickly. I'm typing putty button and I'll go here and I'll type the IP address of my server and I'll click on SSH plus button and then I'll click on auth. Then I'm going to browse the private key and then open and it prompts you enter the username CentOS. That's it. I'm not entering the password. I connected to the server. So after connecting to the server, what are we going to do? Is something we're going to see tomorrow in the session. And that's for today. And if you don't want the server, you can come here and the top right corner, you have options, whether you want to terminate the server or reboot the server or stop the server. So stop is like shutdown. Terminate is like destroy. I don't need this anymore. I'm going to terminate the instance. Terminate is like destroy. You're deleting the server. So this is an irreversible action. The moment you destroy, you're going to lose everything on the server. So till the time we gain more expertise, please ensure you destroy and recreate as much as possible. And that's for today. Any questions, anyone? I could see a couple of hands raised. Yeah, Vishwanath, go ahead, Karthik. And another request, guys. So meeting link remains the same. Meeting link remains same. And session timings also remains the same. and see you tomorrow in the session at 8 a.m. Okay, so tomorrow session starts same time. Tomorrow session starts same time, 7:30 a.m. IST. Okay, and that's it. And we are good. And we're ready to take up the questions. If you have any questions, you are ready to post the questions. And please raise your hand. I'm going to answer your questions. I'm going to
Hello,
address your
Manoj.
questions. So just a
Hi,
second.
Manoj.
Just a second, guys. I'm good. Please post your questions. And the interest of recording length, I'm going to stop the recording and I'm going to take up the questions. Okay, let me stop the recording. And yeah, please.